We tend to believe that the smartest people are the ones with all the answers, confident, certain, unshakable. But history tells a very different story. The truly brilliant minds, the ones who changed how we think, how we live, how we lead, were often filled with doubt. Not weakness, not confusion, but deep, deliberate self-questioning. Socrates once said, "I know that I know nothing." That sentence is still shaking the world, because doubt, when used right, is not a sign of ignorance. It's a sign of wisdom. Today, let's explore why the greatest thinkers often doubted themselves and why that doubt made them powerful. Socrates never claimed to be wise. In fact, he said the opposite. "I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, that I know nothing." What kind of philosopher builds an entire system of thought around not knowing? But that's the point. Socratic wisdom is not about having answers. It's about asking better questions. His method? He didn't lecture. He asked, and then asked again, and again, until the person speaking realized maybe they didn't know either. Socrates believed that true clarity begins with honest doubt. Abraham Lincoln is often remembered as one of the greatest leaders in American history. But behind his powerful speeches was a man who constantly doubted himself. He would write long, emotional letters when he was angry or uncertain. But most of them, he never sent. He once wrote, "If there is a worse place than hell, I am in it." That's how he described the pressure of command during the Civil War. But this self-questioning didn't paralyze him. It grounded him. It made him thoughtful, empathetic, cautious. It made him a leader who didn't act out of impulse, but reflection. René Descartes woke up one day and asked, "What if everything I've ever believed is false?" He doubted his senses, his teachers, his memories. In fact, he doubted the entire world, until he found one thing he could not doubt. "I think, therefore I am." This wasn't just a fancy quote. It was a revolution in philosophy. Because Descartes showed that doubt isn't the enemy of reason, it's the foundation of it. Charles Darwin took 20 years to publish On the Origin of Species. Why? Because he was terrified he might be wrong. He kept questioning himself, refining, testing. He once wrote, "I sometimes see flashes of light, and then they vanish, leaving me in doubt whether they were real." But his self-doubt wasn't a flaw. It was his strength. It made his theory bulletproof, because he challenged himself harder than his critics ever could. Michel de Montaigne invented the personal essay, but if you read his work, you'll find a man constantly turning himself inside out. "I turn my gaze inward," he wrote. "I find only chaos." He didn't pretend to be a genius. He admitted his confusion, his contradictions, his blind spots, and yet, his honesty made him timeless. He showed that exploring your own uncertainty is not weakness, it's courage. There's a scientific reason for all this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It shows that people with less knowledge often overestimate their abilities, while the truly skilled underestimate theirs. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. This is why arrogance often comes from ignorance, and humility is a mark of mastery. Today, confidence sells. In politics, on social media, in boardrooms. People expect you to sound sure, even when you're not. But the danger of this: overconfidence leads to blind spots, to mistakes, to disaster. And yet, those who quietly examine their flaws, their doubts, their uncertainties, they see things others miss. Because humility sharpens the mind, doubt clears the fog. Laozi, the ancient Chinese philosopher, said, "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." Einstein once said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." Both understood something deeper, that greatness doesn't come from being certain. It comes from being curious, from asking better questions, from accepting that you will never fully arrive, but always keep searching. Let's get one thing clear. Self-doubt is not about being timid or passive. or frozen in fear. It's about being precise, disciplined, honest. It's the quiet voice in your mind that says, let's think a little longer. Let's look a little deeper. Let's test it again. The smartest people doubt themselves because they want to get it right. In a world obsessed with being right, it takes real strength to say, I don't know. But from Socrates to Lincoln, Darwin to Montaigne, the ones we admire most weren't afraid to question themselves, because their doubt didn't make them weak. It made them wise. So next time you find yourself unsure, uncertain, or second-guessing, don't panic. You might just be on the path to real understanding. Like, share, and subscribe for more timeless lessons from history's greatest thinkers.